Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Reaction Time. We are back after the New Year hiatus. Professional League of Legends is back after the New Year hiatus. North American League of Legends isn't quite back yet, but we're going to talk about that. It's coming back up. The season 12. God, we're old.
Oh,
Season 12 is here upon us.
oh, I wasn't ready for
As
that.
I think all I started in season 3. I think, Eric, you started in 2, right?
No, I started in 2011, so
So
that's
S1.
yeah, like
That's right after the Fnatic Freaks Basement era.
Freak's Basement, yep.
I watched Freak's Basement.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's where I started as well. Like my first was it was either an IEM or a DreamHack. I can't remember which one.
one of the old ones on like Justin.tv or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. I
God,
think we
that's
had
a
to
throwback.
do.
Anyway, we're millennial boomers here in the chat. I'm David, that's Steven, that's Eric. We're in the house. Um, Reminder, as usual, Reaction Time is brought to you by Funky Merch and the Funky brand. You can find us on the Funky Games YouTube channel, along with many other things that you'll hear more about when I let this man plug later in this show. Um,
Let me add them.
we're gonna start by talking about our beloved LCS here, and we're gonna talk about lock in. In I think our very last episode, which was a few weeks ago now, we did some basic predictions for the lock in tournament, which begins on Friday, I want to say,
Yes.
this week. But some stuff has been floating around about some of the big teams and how much they're going to be able to do in this tournament. So just to start from the top, most of the problems with all of this are with the United States Department of State. Not really with any teams, not really with any ownership. Like, from what everything that's come out, teams have done their best to get all this done in a timely fashion, and it just hasn't worked because it's 2022 in the United States, and getting immigration paperwork done here sucks. It sucks even more during a global pandemic that's still happening, and that is what it is. So we know that C9 is going to field like none of their actual team, if I remember the announcement right.
It's Darshan and Sven Isles, and I don't remember if they were actually going to play Fudge Blabber or not.
I believe they are
And
playing Fudge Blabber. At
okay,
least at that initial
so they've
announcement,
got
they
Fudge
were.
Blabber and mostly Academy. And then TSM also isn't having the ability to get their Chinese imports over in time and get paperwork done, so they're going to have to play a partial Academy roster. TL, it was announced well, not announced, but it was revealed by Upcomer today that TL can't play Core and Hans together because Core's green card hasn't come through yet. So at least for the duration of lock-in, that still isn't dealt with. So that's 3 of the top teams in the league having to deal with significant roster change for the lock-in tournament. So with that said, Steven, how does this impact your perception of this tournament as a whole?
I think we're seeing the value of the tournament right now. I think this has always been a time that allows for experimentation or allowing your like rookie people. It's unfortunate that the people that need visas are the ones that probably needed the initial jitters taken out as far as like synergizing with the team or getting some functionality from this tournament to hit the beginning of the regular split really strong. But I think we had a lot of value of letting some of these academy players come up and play. Maybe this will open up the gates later when they're like, you know what, we did do well in the lock-in tournament with some experimentation or letting some of these people come up. Um, let's show them off more. This was a tournament to allow experimentation. I don't like the parameters in which we are experimenting in this current situation, but at the same time, this is close to the spirit of the lock-in tournament. We should see some wild and fun stuff. And then I think, especially when you're talking about the likes of Dark Sean, this is the time for them to show up and like showcase that they're valuable. And I don't think they would get an opportunity otherwise. So one door opens, one closes, like I hope to see those players at least do well,
Yeah,
regardless of the
there's a
situation.
great joke to be made here about we're giving these up and coming academy players a good chance to play on stage and get some time playing on the big team with players
Darshan.
like Darshan and Sven.
But at the same time, like we want to see them. We want to see them succeed as the fellow boomer league aficionados that we are. So uh, let's do it. Let's see that happen as far as these players coming out of the gates really hard.
And
Eric,
C9
same
is like
question. How does this impact your perception?
so so I like I'm actually okay with this happening. I like this happening now as opposed to in the regular split where like, C9 going for this roster and then not getting to play with them and for like 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season would be like so tragic. It also gives the teams, I feel, specifically for this season, a bit of a breather with the fact that they were assembling rosters super late, even because of everything that's going on. Like, give them a chance to like let it come together. I also think C9, as far as like the rookie talent thing, is a bit of an outlier. If you look at like TSM, I think it's like a better fair shake to some extent, where it's like, yeah, it's Viper showing up again, who's played in the LCS and has won the amateur tournament. Um, but but then on the flip side, they have Hyper playing in LCS for the first time, and so like this is actually giving some talent a chance to play while also getting to see how these other LCS teams will compare against these like academy tier rosters. So we'll get to see Takui in lane against some people who we wouldn't have gotten to see him in lane against otherwise.
The and the point to follow up on Eric's point is that in previous years when Lockett wouldn't have existed, there is a real chance that these visa problems would have directly impacted teams' chances of qualifying for Worlds because of spring split, playoff positioning, or missing playoffs, and the time required in that, and the loss of championship points, which, as we know, are one of the main routes to get into the World Championship at the end of the year. So, if they can keep this to just being a lock-in problem and not a actual start of spring problem, which I am not convinced this is going to be fixed by February. I'll put it that way. I'll believe it when the press releases come out. But if they can keep this confined to lock-in and keep lock-in fun or whatever, I think there could be some value to that. It's just like you ease into the season where, as we see in China and in South Korea, regular season started this week. Like it's on and going. These games that are being played this week, they matter. So in terms
Is
of
that
the
the segue?
gameplay,
I liked it.
it actually isn't because I wanted to talk about the gameplay impact of this. We made our picks for this tournament. I don't remember what they are. You can go back and watch the old episode to find out. Um, I'm pretty sure I said that 100 Thieves were the favorites to win this tournament as the reigning LCS champions. And now all of their three primary opposition teams are kneecapped by losses of primary significant players where they are not. So, are you picking anyone besides 100 Thieves to win this tournament?
It's all TLBB, no problem. Core with
Um,
anyone is fine, so they'll just field core. It's all good.
I think they're doing the opposite actually.
Well, darn.
But like no. But EG is looking strong. So like 100 Thieves EG are like my top bets right now.
Yep. And like EG is probably the value bet if you were to wager on this, because I would imagine if I could find odds for this that 100 Thieves went from being the favorite to being the prohibitive betting favorite based on the news of the last couple of weeks. But I imagine you could get a sweet little price on EG to surprise, which, I would be strongly in favor, but I'm suspicious that this tournament, like, it could be fun and enjoyable and have some good games, But if there's any level of serious gameplay, I think Hundred Thieves just smacks everybody. So that's my 2 cents on that. I'm excited to see games and see people on stage again. I am interested to see how competitive these games are.
I think it will be. I think there's enough hungry players out there. I think this is a good time for mid-pack teams to kind of like pick up some early wins and maybe get some momentum. I think there is a lot of value of momentum coming into this tournament, especially if you play high in it. And it's some time to just get some on-stage presence and getting those team synergies starting to kick off. So I think there's still a lot that can come out of it for mid-pack teams.
So the joke I would have here, winning a preseason tournament also doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do well in your regular season opener. Shout out to Top Esports. Um, so let's talk a little China and Korea here real quick as we dig in. So China, I think we are through 2 or 3 match days at
Three
this
match
point.
days.
It's
It's
3 match
six
days in
matches.
China and 1 in the LCK. So we've got some best of threes out on the table. My personal favorite, as you might expect if you've been paying attention to this program for a little while, was the new and refurbished Rare Atom, having lost their primary carry in the mid lane in Fofo, going out and 2-0ing Demacia Cup champion Top Esports. Including a game 2 in which the stat lines to this game will not tell you that Rare Atom won this game, because I think Knight finished this game like 8-1-12 and caught that backdoor L.
I feel like the Rare Atom is like reverse Dignitas, and up until they've won, they're losing the game. It was quite wild to watch.
It's that, and then it's also that the top esports is the epitome of Dignitas. Like this is like I love Rare Atom, and I thought they did great in this series. But this was a top esports series. This was
Yes.
not a Rare Atom series
This,
where
like,
where
the
you just
thing about this
watch.
is it's not surprising for top esports games to end like this. It's really not.
Like you just like watch Jackie Love step forward and then the game ends. And it's like that's how it goes. You just have to accept it. You can change up your top laner to someone who actually knows how to play weak side. You can bring in a mechanically strong ganking jungler. You could do all these things, and it turns out that like you're still just gonna int some games away.
Rare Atom ran the Rek'Sai in game 1, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, it was so that comp, because that was the Lux
It
Jin.
was Lux Kate in the bot lane.
It was Lux Kate. Okay, yeah, like the amount of range that the LPL is doing. I guess I'm skipping ahead. I can wait. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to,
Yeah,
Dad.
I was gonna touch on results. I was gonna touch on results a little bit, but
Go for it.
it's the score lines from this last game. Top Esports in the loss have Zoom 5-1-6 on Gwen and Knight 8-1-8 on Tryndamere, and they lose this game, which is just so funny to me. It just it is it like they upgraded their top lane and they're still being top esports, and it's really funny.
EDG has a 100% win rate. Am I seeing that right?
Which is not particularly surprising.
But
Let's put it,
but as
world champion's not cooling.
the biggest
Like
EDG fanboy of the
the
podcast.
RA like the RA result is the only surprising result of the 6 games that have been played thus far. I would say, like, I even in my fondest days, like Strive in his LPL debut, I did not expect to win a series against Knight, regardless of whether or not he deserved it. Um, but LNG getting their first win 2-0, EDG getting their first win 2-0. FPX over Royal is a little bit of a surprise with FPX's completely redesigned roster, but I think it sounded like LWX had a really good series as the one holdover in that, so that's good to see them remaining competitive. And then LNG getting the 2-0 and Doinby's debut for them as well. Interesting to see.
It was
And then in the 2 games that have been played in Korea, I know it was T1 2-0 over whatever Africa's new sponsor is these days. I forget. to be honest. And then I forget what the other match was this morning. Oh, Dragon X getting 2-0'd by Sandboys, and Deft fanboys being sad once again, unfortunately. So we've got about like 15 games to play with to figure out a little bit of a read on the meta. And we've got some picks to look at here. Eric, what has stood out to you through this first series of games in terms of champion picks?
Um, so there's definitely room, especially in top lane, for pocket picks or nonsense with this meta because it's super bot centric. So like hyper carries bot lane paired with engaged supports that can snowball games is the primary meta. Um, Depending on if like the Caitlyn gets let through. But then you'll see like people throwing out wild top laners. In EDG's series, Flandre played Annie top lane, and he played Vladimir top lane. No one else has played Annie in this split. Not even Cryan, who is still playing in the LPL. So like this was very unique. But like we've also seen Fiora out of Ale. We've seen tons of Gwen and Kennen as like the main picks, but like it's really wide open with what you do on the top side of the map.
Jace also.
Jace, yeah.
Kind of compounding on that top meta, I think we're seeing a lot of emphasis on like range and having a lot of opportunity to engage, like Jhin, Caitlyn, Lux, like having the Rise in the mix, Corki, those champions, as well as like pairing up with like the Gwen, Fiora, and Jace is like you're doing a lot of split pushing and then top lane like island stuff. But then when they start to collapse, all of a sudden your team is able to engage from the range, especially with like Rek'Sai and Lee Sin in there. And I think that's just like a really fast paced meta because there's just so many ways to say go and start the fight. And I think we saw that a lot in the rare Adam and uh top game. Both of those games, it was just like all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have a pick, we can go, we can do this. And either the Jace or the Gwen could like collapse in on the longer range from the bot lane with the Leona and Lux. Like that was some cool stuff to see.
The bands are what has stood most out to me. There's four that are the really, really high priorities, including um we are through 18 games and Renekton is at 100% ban
I
rates.
wonder who he's good
Zero
against.
picks, 18 bans through 18 games.
Is he good against like stopping the split pusher and not letting them get out of the lane with any ability to solo by chance?
And then Caitlyn, which we noted already, and then LeBlanc and Twisted Fate. So LeBlanc has risen a little bit in priority since Worlds. Caitlyn is the new pick in the meta since Worlds. But Renekton and TF, this is not new business. And like the next most banned one, it's Jace. That's not particularly new business in the meta right now. So the bans are like there's been a little bit of a shift in bot lane, but it's a lot of the same recipe
Yeah, I
in a
think
lot of the lanes except for bots.
I think
The
even
the other
circling
joke
back.
I would make is the two highest priority presence ADCs being Caitlyn and Jinx, and Victor being a significant pick in mid lane. Is the pro meta also just arcane? Or is this where we're going here?
It's just
There
an
was a
RK fan
prolonged
fiction.
Yeah, there was a prolonged Heimerdinger hover pick in mid lane in a couple of the LPL games, and Jace also being high presence too. So like,
Yeah,
yes,
like
it really is like arcane buff, where the players are thinking, hey, I saw this show,
I
I'll hover Heimerdinger.
we have not seen the Donger or Singed come through yet, among others, or Echo
Yet,
yet.
Yeah, I think with Flandre playing those AP tops that have like a high flank capability, Singed might come into play. So
Um, the other thing that I look at the mid priority list, and the change in the mid priority list is not one that makes me happy because you know what I hate, boys?
Corky
I
meta.
hate watching Corky metas, and we've found ourselves a Corky meta to start the year off.
He
Got
hurts.
ourselves a bogey.
Whiskey Delta, man.
Corky
He
sitting at
hurts.
7 picks and 2 bans through, so 50% present through 18 games, and a 5-2 win rate in those games. So that's annoying.
Well,
I'm upset about that.
they made his build path a lot cheaper, so it's like you're not sandbagged by like Triforce or any of that thing. Like you can get up and going to those donkey like auto attacks and spells, so like really quickly.
They also like the first strike.
Oh
Mythic
yeah,
is like the main one that has gotten airtime with him because it lets you accelerate even more in lane phase, getting to those item power spikes. Um, and then also it works really well with the way his kit does damage in late game because normally first strike fades off pretty fast, but because of how his damage ratios work, it's not as bad, which is strange. Um, but then also like his item path has been interesting because like most of the time it's been Immortal Shield Bow in these games, but there is the Ludens build, which has shown up from time to time,
ew,
which is
oppressive.
some hilarious stuff.
We did also in the mid meta get to see the competitive debut of Vex, who was obviously not available at Worlds. 2 games thus far, 1 victory and 1 defeat. The win was by Scout in game 2 of JDG EDG. Picked into the Zoe and was a low damage source, only 18% damage in the game compared to big damage on Viper's Jhin. Flandre was on the Vladimir as a part of this game, so this was a heavier AP on the top side with a Lee Sin in the jungle composition. I have not had a chance to watch this game yet, but I'm really interested to see how this fits in. It's obviously not a like completely overpowered high priority thing, but already being willing to pick it into Zoe, I think is notable. Um,
It's
that because Zoe's got a meta presence and kind of always will.
what they talked about in coverage is that like the Vex's AoE fear ability
Yep.
is really good against short range engaged champions or champions who have to get closer to hit you with their abilities, like when Zoe like hops in. The other running commentary from this thread is that Scout whiffed a lot of ultimates, which may contribute to those low damage numbers. So you do have to hit skill shots
Yeah,
um,
and she's
to win at League of Legends usually.
Well, and the bit like I was gonna mention this at the end of the video, but we'll do it now. I have been in the little bit of Rift I've played, I've been experimenting with Vex a little bit and trying to figure out the angles and stuff because she's an interesting champion and feels like something that I can get my fingers around a little bit. But it feels really bad when you miss that ult. And like it's a straight line, it's a big long straight line, it's a pretty wide line, but it's if you see it coming, it's pretty easy to dodge. And it feels real bad when you miss. It's great when you hit it, but like that cooldown is rough buddy for your playmaking abilities when it's gone.
and I think that's going to be something with just as like your team is more familiar with how like Vex's animations and timings work because like if you had like a Leona Jhin Vex Lee Sin and like the Jace combo, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage really quickly from anywhere, and I think that's the value that people want to get out of that champion is just this ability to from very odd angles pick fights that they want to pick or force people to choke points where they can have an advantage.
Well, and it's also the kind of thing that like we always talk about with Jin, when you can pair Jin with hard CC, so that you can chain the Deadly Flourish CC onto something else that started the engage. Vex ult works really well if somebody else has like a Leona EQ in, oh, I'm just gonna lock you down. Now you can hit this free skill shot on this person and go murder them. So, and it's not exactly like we haven't seen that in the support meta, in the jungle meta. Like, there's plenty of CC around. It just feels like it needs that. Like, if we think back about the days of the Udyr meta, right? Like, Udyr just going in flash bear slap on somebody. That gank setup for Vex is perfect.
And we're talking about when the Udyr meta existed, not the
Yeah.
fact that Udyr was played this week.
Yeah, it's
Disregard the
not played
fact
this
that
week.
Udyr was played this week. Yes.
Don't look over here.
Shed a soft tear for the lack of Udyr, or don't.
Yeah, don't, because
Hey,
Rek'Sai's in,
wait,
baby. That's what I want to
no,
see.
Eric's a
Udyr was
liar.
played.
Eric's
Udyr
a
was played this
liar.
week. He was played in the Ultra Prime game. Don't watch it.
But you can't tell me he wasn't played. I didn't even know that.
But Rek'Sai.
Udyr was played. Uh, so Udyr was specifically paired up. So like we talked about the arcane meta. So Caitlyn is the highest priority ban pick, the new hotness, and it's primarily paired with Lux. Normally though, teams are playing engaged supports, and the reason why is because everyone's playing these hyper carries bot lane, and there's no teleport to punish you right now in the early game because of the teleport changes, where you can't actually flank teleport until 14 minutes. So you have to like safe teleport. Because of that, it means that you need to have some form of engage in bot lane, and then you also need ganking junglers because you need your jungle to show up to snowball bot because top laner ain't gonna help you. Um, uh, Corki and Rise might be able to come down, but like they're more likely going to get locked in lane. So it's really got to be the junglers snowballing bot lane matchups. So expect a lot of 3v3 skirmishes bot lane. The Udyr was picked with a blitzcrank to try and punish the Lux Caitlyn, and it worked in lane, and that's what matters. And then pretend that Hacker wasn't on the map for the rest of the game, and you'll be okay.
The thing that you notice looking at the support picks here, you have Leona Thresh Nautilus, high engage, normal, not out of the ordinary to see, as the three highest presence supports. Then you have Lux, and then you have the Holy Trinity after them of Karma, Lulu, and Yumi hanging around with that hypercarry meta.
Oh joy.
And the Karma was specifically a counter pick into the Caitlyn Lux to try and like have a winning poke lane matchup. It worked early. It did not work late. And so that's the awkward part with this is that Caitlyn Lux lane, while it's punishable by early ganks, it turns out that the Caitlyn build is still dumb.
And it's um the karma itself is actually 3-1 in games, so it has done well, and it's been into the Lux in 3 of those 4 games. 2 wins by Kyria in the T1 series, 1 win by Ming in the FPX Royal series, and the loss by Zhuo in the Top Esports Rare Atom series. So it has won games.
Can I get a histogram of the Caitlyn like rise? You're implying the Caitlyn build and those kind of things. Like, give me a rundown.
Oh, so it's actually like lethal tempo for starters. So usually, sometimes it's been the Healy one, Swift tempo or no, the one that's like
With
the
the feather
boots with
foot.
the
Yeah.
feather. Yeah.
It was
So it's
Fleet both games in the LCK.
yeah. So it's been Fleet like three of the 4 times, and then it's also been lethal tempo. But then it's like you get Gale Force, you get Collector, and then you Gale Force at the enemy AD carry, shoot them once, net them, shoot them again, ult, and that's been the play. That I've seen a couple of
Yeah,
times.
and like it's the build hasn't particularly changed from just what Caitlyn build is. It's Gale Force Collector, i.e. Rapid Fire, pick a 5th item.
So it's just her ability to play in the game with that combination is being incredibly successful in your life, and
the
enough
range
flavor.
And the range bits that you mentioned too. Gale Force is also very strong right now because like there's these engaged supports, there's these engaged junglers. Dodging a skill shot means more in this era of League of Legends than it probably ever has. Um, don't get hit by skill shots.
Which is so funny to me because we're talking about like the immobile hyper carries are like the next runner up. So you're just taking the like the most mobile hyper carry ratio that you can get that's creeping to the top, and then you have everybody else. Uh, I hope to see Kog'Maw with that, but I think there's then we're reaching to the two immobile for a hyper carry scaling, especially since uh early game you can be punished so much. But
What I find interesting is it looks like Jinx has mostly prioritized Kraken Slayer over Gale Force, where like Aphelios has always been a Gale Force picker most of the time. Um, Jhin has always made huge use out of Gale Force. Like, there's a lot of the Gale Force champions floating around, but Jinx being as high priority as she has been, while only some of the time building that, I think is somewhat interesting.
she has a
We
Yeah,
lot
have
of
also,
movement in her kit, so
yeah,
there's that, and she has a little bit better like CC as far as like in that pool of who we're talking about.
yeah.
So I think that comfortability where like she's not gonna the damage that she's gonna pump out with Kraken Slayer is gonna like if she's moving right and dodging or protecting herself by zoning different areas off, she should be better off getting that damage down.
We have also seen the Ziggs come out in the bot lane. It hasn't really been that good, but it's floating around there still. 3 games, 3 losses. None necessarily its fault, but it's something that's like in the background of all of these like pure AD picks. Is the Ziggs is still there as a possibility, which is interesting to keep an eye on. So,
problem with
um,
the only problem with the Ziggs is with the Renekton off the table. So many teams want to play AP top laners with AP mid laners, and so then it's like you have to find a like another AD source to go with it, and the other AD source picks have not been successful.
it's like you need to have Jace almost, like, because you have that like high AD threat coming from somewhere. Because the mid picks, the AD mids really aren't floating around yet, and you have a lot of AD junglers, but it's not like we're seeing like we've seen a little bit of Graves, but that's like the only one that's like this real serious damage destroy thing. Like Lee Sin's gonna bring AD, Jarvan's gonna bring AD somewhat, but not to the level of like Jace, Renekton,
Yeah,
Aurelia.
Rek'Sai! More Rek'Sai! The jungle. I also think it'd be really hard to get any of the AD back into mid lane because Victor is like just really like no nocturnes, no Zeds in my mid lane, please. He doesn't allow that. So
Well, and the I know that it's been a running theme of the patch note discussions going into 12.1 and 12.2 here that Yasuo and Yone have been crushed a little bit by some of the item changes that have been done. Deservedly, some would say. But they are not in a good place right now, which is just fine with me.
e-
Um
even though they're getting buffed, run everyone, flee.
extremely minimally buffed, but yes.
Enough to get people to come out and play it in solo queue, which is probably the bigger concern rather than it actually reaching
True.
solo pro play.
Um that's about all the meta thoughts I've got. Do we have anything that I missed?
Not yet.
All right, let's talk content because we are somewhat creating content of our own here. And League of Legends is nothing except content for us to consume. So let's there were 2 big content pieces that dropped this week from official Riot channels. Let's talk about the call, is that what it's called this year?
Yes.
The season cinematic, which the season cinematics have often been some of my favorite things that Riot has done over the years. I think the Warriors cinematic from 2 years ago is my favorite Riot video ever. It's best. Um, so what do you think about this year's cinematic, both the music and the visual effects, Steven?
So it's kicking off a lot of like lore and storytelling, which is great. That's what they did last year, or yeah, last year with the Senna and Lucian stuff. So we're doing that again, seeing Ornn and Talia, and I didn't mind Kaisa. I'm not really as turned off of seeing her into the lore as much as some circles might be. Rek'Sai being in there, the Queen Bey and her Cersei. Um, a lot of different characters that we haven't really seen rendered in this style, which I think is kind of a unique style compared to something like what they do with Arcane and the other music videos. So the cinematic style, I think, is one of my favorite animation styles as far as like rendering out these characters in a super hyper realistic way. The music is just really like, it makes you want to like climb a mountain or like be active or conquer some small village in your area. So it does its job of just really engaging you as a viewer. So I would think even better than Warriors, but that was just such a pretty cinematic. So I would place this as probably the top kickoff cinematic from if I kind of lump those together with the Warriors, um, the Climb, I believe it is, and this one, the Call. Those three. This one's probably the top of that.
It's ironic. I very much disagree with that
Yeah,
answer.
we could talk about that. But
Eric, thoughts on the call?
Um, I liked Freljord being there, and like the Volibear being up there with the storm and shooting it down, and Sejuani going like there was like what happened to Bristle was like very rude though. That made me sad. Don't do that to Bristle. Also Ornn being there is like cool and all, but like I hope that means they're not doing Ornn buffs. Please and thank you.
not yet. They're
Um,
coming.
like I thought the visuals were really well done. It was interesting to see the regions they chose to animate and highlight. I think the Shurima section feels like it's going to be important moving forward, and it's good to see like Talia and Rek'Sai and Ornn getting screen time in on this big side. I think is a big deal. Like there are so many champions these days that like Riot being able to spend some more time spreading some of the love out is, I think, a really good thing for the game as a whole. The music hasn't hit me as much as some previous things have. Like, it hasn't wriggled its way into my ears as much as previous years, where like, um, Warriors and Awaken both just all the time. That is what I listen to get hype. The end. Those two. And the Awaken video is, I think, strongly underrated in hindsight because that video slaps too. Um, so I like musically those two hit harder for me than this one or whatever the other one that I'm forgetting about is that you said.
Climb.
Yeah. So I thought it was like they don't really miss. Like
No,
they
I mean
just
this is
kind
a
of
really
don't.
high threshold.
Um, which is like I'm good with that. So it's always one of my favorite things of the year is to see what they come up with this year around this kind of central theme of go climb. Um, because there's only so many ways you can say that, but they find different stuff to do with it every year. And I'm interested to see where the lore development goes from here.
You want to hear about my theories?
Do you want to theorize a
I
little bit?
I do. So the Shurima stuff being important is very important because that is the Void event. That's pretty much guaranteed to happen. So that's kicking that off, which I'm very hyped because Void is my favorite subsect of League as far as the creatures and stuff. So I'm hoping to see the Cho'Gath, Kog'Maw, and Rek'Sai, all of them, Kha'Zix. I want that Void event to really flesh out that, which I think is kind of left behind as far as the region that's the least amount of development right now. And I really hate the argument that like, oh, players don't like the monster characters, so we're just making anime girls all day. No, I want my Voidlings, I want my monstrosity so I can play them. Give them some love, and I think you'll get the rewards from that. Also, the Freyord event is part of that too, with the gods having to come down with Ornn and Ivia and the Volibear. That's gonna be really cool because they have to fight back the Void with Lysandra and all
And
that.
the Udyr rework,
Oh, really? That type wow, it's all coming together. It's so good.
which we got some morsels of news about this week that it's continuing to progress.
Oh, and if you don't know this, I don't know if it's a spoiler, it's just heavily implied in, like, the dark like, the deep lore. Udyr is Sejuani's father, I believe. So, like, that's I hope that happens.
There might be some stuff cooking there, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Speaking before we talk about Wildfire, speaking of lore dump things, we should talk about Zeri,
Who?
which which
From
I forgot to put in the summary. The new champion
Neon
that was
from
revealed this
Valorant?
week. No, not the Valorant one. This one.
Oh,
That's
League of Le
Neon. That's different.
Neon for Valorant is not Zeri from League of Legends?
Eric, thoughts on Zeri, the new ADC? That's some are saying is just better Ezreal.
Um, I like electricity and spark themes, so that's cool. On the flip side, like, I tend to not like when they add new ADCs because new ADCs tend to be broken. And as someone who mainly plays bot lane, I don't like getting wrecked. Because like Samira was busted, like hella busted. So having yet another busted poke slash all in ADC that's not actually like designed for DPS is unfortunate.
Steven, thoughts on the character either ability wise or design wise?
I'll start with ability wise. I think she brings a lot to the table, which raises eyebrows. As far as concerns, especially because they had to like gut Samira to make her not like just absolutely bonkers. So I just have a feeling that this is gonna be the same thing. It's like a really cool character with a lot to offer. But in that single package, it's just too potent, and they're gonna have to gut her a couple weeks after release, and you won't see her very much anymore. Especially because she brings a lot to the table as far as mobility with terrain, which there's a lot of emphasis on terrain in this patch, obviously, with the two new dragons and what they offer, and just the way the ADC pool is working out, like that's going to be a big disruptor. Design wise, I thought she was like kind of boring because I'm on a big kicker about like I don't care about human characters right now too much. I want more exploration within the mysticism and like creatures and those kind of things. I think we've gotten a little too make money off of our 10-cent audience. So I don't think that's as interesting a character design. And then to have like the reference to Neon in Valorant, like to release those characters at the exact same time and have a lot of similarities between those two as far as like aesthetic, kind of bothers me. So I don't necessarily know what's going on with that, but it just rubs me really wrong. For Riot to be doing that with both of their franchises, unless they tie them together in some kind of weird way. But I don't think they were doing any of that tie-in. So I think the design choice is kind of odd, especially for a Zon character.
Um, I like that they continue to add more characters who interact with shields. Given how present shields of all of the types are in the gameplay, whether it's character based shields like Janna, Karma, etc., or item based shields like Bloodthirster, like the Lifeline shields,
Shield bow.
like Barrier. Like, I don't know how many of these things she has the ability to yoink and get rid of, but I think that anytime, like, I think that's part of why Renekton is in such a good place because he can shield break and Blitzcrank getting shield breaking added to his R, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the more things that can interact with that, I think it just adds another facet to if like in a world where maybe you see a team comp where there's a lot of shielding going on in the enemy team, it's like, oh, Zeri might be a good pick here because we can mess with what's going on. So I think it's another interesting facet to have because that element of her kit is unique among bot lane things. Like you have Blitzcrank or Nectin who aren't like Blitz's support, but to have it on ADC I think is interesting. And like anything else, I'm interested to see how broken it is when it drops, or how not broken.
Yeah, I
There's the flip side where it launches with like a 30% win rate.
true, and that might just be character piloting, but I like that you brought. I wasn't aware of the shield break mechanic. What is that tied to?
Trying to remember.
I'll continue talking while I look that up, but that's more of what I would want to see out of like future state of League of Legends is like lowering the character introduction rate. I think is a good call, which they've already admitted that they're going to be doing. Bringing older characters up to par, which they already said they're going to be doing. But also making sure that each character fills a niche. I think we're worried a lot about at this point just having really objectively good characters in the meta, and that is just going to create your weird power dynamics, and it's so much harder to have characters that have a niche fill into the team because it's just going to always be attractive to have what's either the best or what beats the best, um, unless we really start drilling down on like this character does these things pretty well, but it has this one thing that it's really good at. And so when it affects something that can be a whole composition like shielding, I think that's really good and healthy for the game, but I don't think it's emphasized enough in this character for me to be really satisfied.
It's her passive is what it is. So her passive is called Living Battery. She gains move speed whenever she receives a shield from any source. When she damages an enemy shield, she absorbs its energy, shielding herself. So she wants shields
Does it
on
break the
either.
shield?
Hmm?
Does it break the shield or is it just whatever damage is
What does
calculated?
absorbs mean? I don't have numbers. I'm not sure.
Why don't you know these things? Come on.
I
It doesn't break the
You
same way
didn't
that would
design
happen.
this character?
Yeah, it doesn't break.
Okay.
It just like just takes. Yeah.
but it's still like her being against shielding characters will be good, or her being with shielding characters will be good. I think that was the thing before we had the full ability reveal, is people weren't sure like if she could self apply the shield to give her the move speed boost, and there's no way for her to do that in the kit. But you imagine like, oh no, I'm going to build a bloodthirster, and then
Shield.
I can give myself a shield, which makes me go faster.
Or you just take overheal from the
Yeah,
triumph
like
tree. Yeah.
it's not that hard to find yourself a way to do that. Or like barrier being a little mini ghost on her would be kind of some fun tech that might be interesting. So interested to see how that feels. I think that she is on the PBE right now, so that'll be out in a couple of weeks typically. Um, okay, now let's move to more music stuff because I like music. The LEC released their official hype video for the split, a song called Wildfire, featuring Against the Current of former World Anthem fame. They did Legends Never Die in 2017. They did I think the 2019 one as well, if I remember right.
They were
Um, they're
involved.
they're great. I listen to their music all the time, and they recorded a song which it seems like from context clues the song itself without the LEC ties is going to probably end up being on one of their upcoming EPs. But also they have this LEC version with Dracos and Vedius on it, and Dracos and Vedius are fucking awesome. Like the thing that floors me about this is like Vedius in particular has gone, this dude is just good at everything. I said this when I first listened to it. Like he's a former like championship level game player. I forget which. It was an MMO that Blade and Soul. I think he was like a competitive like championship level Blade and Soul player. He's an awesome caster. He's turned into a great singer out of nowhere because he sounds like he belongs on this track. which is nuts. Like that is insane to me. Eric, how did you enjoy this song?
Uh, like to me, the the breakdown parts where Vedius and then where Dracos comes in at the end were the best parts. So I'm gonna always listen to the LEC version. I don't think I'm ever gonna listen to the normal one. Um, but like the setting for the thing was pretty cool too. Like for the music video, it
Yeah.
felt like an actual music video. Like just good stuff. Yeah, always thrilled. More good videos. Um, let's pay for more ridiculous outfits for Dracos and Vedius to wear. That's what it's all about.
Steven, what do you think?
I was blown away. I was pretty floored. I think the LEC talent roster is really stacked, especially when you start giving them some freedoms to do some creative projects like this. I'm assuming they were given creative freedom. They might have just been like ballers and just did it on their own time. But that is something that I hope to see going forward, especially if it could leak over to LCS. Um, as far as just like really securing talent and letting the depth and breadth of the presentation be explored. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity with like professional esports in general, to have this kind of level of presentation, even if it's not your talent. Like the LEC is very fortunate to have Edius and Dracos and what they can do. But at the same time, I hope this opens eyes to like do these kind of promotional products, do these collaborations, just relate them enough to your game so we can have really good content across the board, and just really spend more time involved with your property as far as the tournament goes.
Well, and I can't imagine this is bad publicity for ATC too. They're, whether they like it or not, they are so strongly tied to the game at this point. Like they're a part of this experience. So I imagine them getting into the marketing on this side of the fence too. They probably don't mind at all. It seems like they are into the game. Chrissy has said, she plays regularly. Like it's a mutually beneficial thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah, she plays a lot, and then when that Ven TV thing was doing the you play the game with Dash live before they went under, like she was a frequent person on that.
oh, is
Like
Van
so,
already gone? That's so upsetting.
Ven is gone. G4 is like
They kind of like
back.
cannibalize it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So like
Ross been
I
doing
think
some
they're really into it.
fun content with G4. I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, and I think that's the ecosystem is starting to be able to support properties like G4, even if they go outside of esports. But I think that's more or less what I was trying to like ramble on and articulate. Is just like the ecosystem is growing to a capable point where you can have really like high production music videos involved, high production promotional stunts like we saw with Worlds, and having G4 is not a 24/7 network, but like something akin to that. We're getting really close to that point, where we can be to that level of like ESPN and those kinds of things. My hot take dream scenario, I guess.
There you go. Last take. We're getting to our final things. Favorite moment from pro play this week was in this morning's T1 Kwangdong Freaks game, where Faker on Victor, who if I read the comments right, hasn't actually had that many professional pentakills. It's like he's only had one or two, which is shocking given his you know unkillable Demon King years of world championships, etc. Um, Faker's running through a team fight. Gets the first three kills, is clearly like on his way to a penta, and his jungler steals the fourth kill.
Nope.
If you haven't seen this clip, it's really funny because he's running through. He hasn't he's gotten three kills basically just using Q and E over and over as Victor. So he laughing in the player cam drops his E and his R on his jungler, not the Yumi from the opposite team, who's the last person sitting in front of it. And I've been there. It's frustrating. I've also been the Nidalee in this example, where I have scumbag stolen a penta from someone.
You love to
When's
see
the
it.
last time you stole a penta from someone, Steven?
Probably too many times. I'm surprised I'm still standing to this day.
When's the last time you stole a penta from Eric, Steven?
I don't know. I don't think we could be friends
It's
anymore.
fairly recently,
Oh
actually.
shit! No.
Yeah, it was last year.
It was last. Oh my god,
Yeah.
he's dear diary.
I remember these
The
things.
second
I didn't know that. I just had a feeling, and I'm glad that feeling was right.
the second I get Steven alone, my
I've
vengeance will be
definitely
complete.
stolen one from you in an ARAM, David. So, like,
That I know is true.
yeah.
Yeah, good to just one of those little moments. It's like you guys are playing at the highest level, but this is a very relatable moment. I have been in both sides of this situation. I understand this.
I do that.
Anyway, speaking of playing the game, Steven, what you been playing?
We've been playing League, which has been nice.
Reveal your Clash strats on the
the
podcast.
the Clash strats. Don't die and let the hyper carries carry. Don't run it down. The hot takes is to not run it down, and don't let OP things through, and pick characters you know how to play.
Eric, what hypercarry are you going to play in Clash this weekend?
So I've been playing Vayne and Jinx, mainly. I like Trist still, but like Jinx is really good right now. And Vayne is also absurd. So, like those have
Man, if
been.
Jinx is good right now, I should play my placements. That's not gonna happen. Nope, not
Not
gonna
getting sucked
happen.
in. Not this year.
Nope,
Not getting your Victoria skin.
nope.
I do think now is a terrible time to play solo queue,
Yep.
but it's a great time to play flex. Because with the teleport changes, um, like coordinating as a team means more, and you're also less likely to have Fiesta bot scenarios before 14 minutes. And so as in solo queue, that naturally means the enemy team's jungler and then mid lane Rise gank your lane 24/7. Um, but in flex where you have more control and you can actually communicate when your team has like a mid lane Galio and a top lane Shen, and you're playing Vayne Yumi in bot lane and you don't get a single ult in lane phase. Like you can actually yell at them that way when you're in
Yeah.
comms, and so it's really relevant. Not that this happened in my placements or anything.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I have been playing ranked TFT, so that can be the perspective I bring to this thread. Um, I, I've been trying to dig a little bit more into the meta, but at the same time, like the TFT season right now, it really I am not good at the game, but it really feels like to properly take advantage of how the game is right now, you need to be flexible enough to just kind of play what the game gives you because of augments. And like the augment system is awesome. The fact that there are so many different possibilities for what 3 augments you can get in a given game is awesome. It's like I have played a lot of TFT on this set. This is set 6. And I have never gotten the same 3 augments in a game. Every game feels different. Like it is somewhat responsive to what you're playing, so sometimes the game will help you and give you an augment that you need for stuff. And like it's meant that like I'm not focusing on any one comp that I know how to play very well, which might mean that I'm not playing as well as I could be or as optimally as I could be, but I also feel more comfortable like playing into what what the game gives me and trying to optimize what augments I'm given and how I can best play that into a better position. So that's been really fun. I've really enjoyed where the game is sitting right now, and it's it's good and low key. Even like when I'm playing ranked, I'm not stressing about it at all, which is a better thing for my mental health than getting shit on in every ranked game of League I've ever played. So yeah,
It's a
TFT
great
is great. I really enjoy where the game is at right now.
it's a great set to get to gold. It's a terrible set to get to diamond. It's my statement.
There you go. As I DM'd Eric earlier today for the first time the entire set through all of my games, I finally got enough Yordles going to get a Viger on the board, which has been one of my little goals. and I finally got it today, which made me happy. I haven't didn't really need it. It did win me the game, but didn't really need it. um, Steven, plug it up, bro.
Okay, Wild Rift Esports, the new future of League of Legends.
No,
No, we're not talking about that.
no,
No, we're not
no,
talking
we're
about
not.
I was so hyped. But you should go to Funky store and buy Funky merch. We got t-shirts. We got cool long sleeves. You should buy it. You're a gamer. You want to wear gamer merch for gamer boys. Help me put my kids in college, and I can give clothes to Eric and David, and they can look cool too. But you have to buy the Funky merch from the Funky store, funky.store. That's where the merch is at, which you should buy.
But Steven, what if I don't want merch, but I want more content?
You
Where
should
can I find more content?
You should go to funkydays.com, which has everything on it in a link tree, but specifically our YouTube channel where we do Let's Plays and other podcasts and other things. We make a lot of content around video games, and it's a good time. Me and Eric are playing through the Pokemon trading card game. We're also playing through Halo and some other games, so you should check those out because they're a
We
good
just beat
time.
Ronald for the first time.
Ronald, our arch nemesis, Ronald, the well-known Pokemon rival, Ronald. See us beat him in the episode.
There you have it. Anyway, we'll be back probably in a week or two. We'll have lock-in to talk about. We'll have lots more pro play to talk about. We'll have the LEC to talk about, I think, which should be plenty spicy on its own merit. And it's a new year. We got Professional League of Legends to talk about. We're back, baby. This has been Reaction Time. We'll see you next time.